and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man that just got done making some blood soap for the Forged Supply Company. It's Jack Austin.
How's everybody doing? Yeah, the soap is really disgusting, but it was a labor of love.
Oh, man, it just seems it didn't putrefy, coagulate? Like, how'd you do this?
Coagulation is actually a big part of the whole process.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It feels really good. Not like your typical hard soap. It feels like you're just wiping a soapy bag on your body. We don't even need to get into the FDA or any other health regulations. Just trust me and use it.
Hearing someone say wipe a bag of blood on my body, that shook me to my core. And I gotta tell you, so I joined Jack on his show, the Alter Ego podcast, the wonderful show, several times where we've gotten really weird. And we were talking about a very pungent soap that is Cyborg Mark,
yes.
Made. And co-host. It is still sinking to the core of the earth, that soap that I bought from him. So that speaks for how excellent this soap is, Jack.
For sure. Yeah, it's still sinking right now. Next one we go through, we're going to put a tracker on it so we can kind of keep live and monitor its trek through the Earth's core.
Sometimes I just like to listen to it destroy the Earth's crust. I can still hear bubbling down there.
Put your ear by the cavity in the Earth and listen to the ever-present sizzle of the soap going through the Earth.
Well, thank you for finally joining my show. I mean, I've been on your show a couple times, and we've made it super weird. I mean, we had an episode where we compared Shark in Venice, not Sharks in Venice, with the 1990s Fantastic Four film. And, I mean, those are two movies that deserve comparison.
They do.
Yeah. I think the world needed it.
It's possible, but we did it.
And now you're here to join me to talk about Blade, which... Yes. Makes me very, very, very happy. I mean, the 1998 release film starring Wesley Snipes, directed by Stephen Norrington, and written by David S. Goyer, who's actually a big name nowadays. I mean, he's worked on Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. He's Man of Steel. The guy has been prolific in his writing. And for me, I was 16 years old when Blade came out. And I remember driving to the theater, getting my ticket. The guy was really cool there. I was 16. He still sold me a ticket for a 17-year-old film. I walked in and, you get the opening scene in the hospital, but then you go to this blood rave where you have this guy, this sort of, I don't know, Tracy Lords driving this dude to a meatpacking factory. Once he gets inside, a blood rave happens. And this guy who would normally be, the tough guy, right? This kind of alpha male. He becomes this cowering mess in front of these vampires that are just messing with him and looking horrifying. And everything changes when these horrifying alpha predators see Blade. And then they just become like the guy who just saw the vampires. They see Blade and they become him. And they all put their Kangol hats on and they run around. They're slipping because blood's everywhere. And it was such an excellent intro to a film. Without many words, we know right off the back, even if we didn't know the comic, we know that vampires are afraid of Blade. Well, afraid of Blade. Yes. And it's just such an iconic visual. And when I think about my favorite superhero films, this is in my top 5 every time. So what are your thoughts? When did you first watch this movie? What do you think about Blade?
So this is one of the first comic book movies that I went and saw in the theaters. And I was just a big fan of Wesley Snipes from Demolition Man and White Man Can't Jump. And I just really liked how charismatic he was and how much presence he had on screen. And when we went, we were not old enough to see this movie, I don't think. I can't remember if it was us or my cousin. One of us had to ask the huge African-American man next to us if he would vouch as our parent when the attendees of the theater came in to try to kick people out because they weren't supposed to be there. That is one of my favorite stories. He was so super cool, and he vouched for us. But as far as the movie goes, you're absolutely right. I like that this guy's there. He's just there for a good time. He has no idea what's going on. And he realizes, I like your analogy, that he's in there with a group of predators. And when he realizes that, he's just fighting for survival to get out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like he's in this mosh pit of predators who are just looking to beat him, eat him eventually, and kill him. So he's in a fight for survival. But you're right. Then all you see are these black boots. And they pan out, and there's this character. And the minute you see that shot, you're in. You're in. You know that Blade is there to do some serious business. And it's like when, the jackals are around and the lion shows up.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, oh my goodness. And you're right. Blade, in all of his 3 movies that Wesley Snipes did, they did such a fantastic job of identifying him as a powerful character, somebody with a lot of confidence, and somebody that you wanted to know more about. And he only has maybe 2 lines in the first 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to do. That's hard to replicate, to get you invested in a character like they did with Blade, without him saying anything.
But just the look says it all, right? And I think a lot of that credit goes to David Goyer, but also Stephen Norrington. I don't know how much you know about this director, but just that he directed League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, was a movie where Sean Connery quit from the industry. Yeah. He quit. It was fraught with problems, but what I think I sort of understand Norrington a little bit more than most people and his attention to detail.
Yeah.
Because the sword, the look, the vest. I mean, he analyzed everything. Pearl, that vampire, he had a whole backstory. Everything about it is he had planned. But he started off as makeup effects. So he worked on Greystroke and Gremlins, Return to Oz. He's the guy who helped operate the Gump. So in this film, like what special effect makeup does is you sit there and just with a tiny little pinprick or, tiny little brush, and you just put hairs in, or you paint thumbs. I mean, the attention to detail is insane. And then he moved up, right? He worked on the witches. He did the Grand High Witch. That was his effect. Like, he decorated her, that iconic look. He moved into Alien 3. He did he was on Aliens too. He worked on the chestburster scenes. He worked on the face huggers. Then he moved into Waxwork. He moved into Hellraiser. And eventually he got to Blade.
That's a lot of names. That's a lot of movies. When you just start saying that, when you started mentioning the Alien franchise, I was like, oh my goodness. Because the level of details, not only in the human gore and things like that happen, but the creature effects, making them believable and making them scary is a big deal. So I didn't know that. That's good information.
Yeah. And then on top of, so what's interesting is, I think he was really interested in, Wesley Snipes was also a producer on this, and he was interested in the character, but you had this weird symbiotic relationship between, they said it was, the producers of this film said it was kind of like a stool, a 3-legged stool. That's the thing they said. It was Wesley Snipes, Goyer, and Norrington. And the 3 of them somehow gelled together, where Norrington didn't really mess with the script because he was so worried about the look. So I just stuck with Goyer's excellent R-rated, dude. This is a grounded, mean movie. Pearl gets tortured, this evil vampire. It's just, there's so much subtle and cool world building in it. And then you have Wesley Snipes' performance, where when you look back at superhero movies of old, where they fell apart, like Fantastic Four in the 90s, where they fell apart was the fight scenes, right? Or like in the first X-Men in 2000, the first Spider-Man, they were just a little clunky, but I loved how grounded this was. You sort of had, Wesley Snipes wanted a lot of Hong Kong martial arts, spin kicks, and then you also get the greatest superhero landing ever in this film. And so you have this really beautiful looking world that's fleshed out to every single book that you see in the background. You get Snipes at his best and a good script. And
I almost say that's one of the best superhero landings, if not the first one I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
He gets out of the ritual. He gets the blood in his system, and he's going down to fight La Magra. You're absolutely right. We might have been witnessing the birth of the superhero landing.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and it was just so cool. And I gotta tell you, man, I get so annoyed when I see the 56% tomato meter score. And I even get annoyed when I see the 78% audience score, because this movie is at least 145%. For me. It's okay. This is, I know I'm talking a lot here, man, but you also was on your Venom episode. I love Venom. You didn't. That was a fun ep. And what I like though is this movie, we watch a lot of superhero movies, and a lot of them are good, but none of them have a standout iconic moment. Blade has probably 5 of them. Yeah. Ice skating uphill. I love when the cops start shooting Blade. He's like, "Are you out of your damn mind?" It's like that was his idea. I love Catching of the Glasses, the blood rave. I mean, there are just some iconic visuals in this, and they're so memorable.
Him
And
coming back to their lair and finding that it's been raided by Deacon Frost. That, to me, was one of the most powerful scenes in the movie for me, personally.
yeah, because Kristofferson, right? You just love that guy, Whistler. And it's pure. It's, for me, I never knew about the Blade character, and maybe you can tell me about that. But for me, what I loved was, it was just focus on Wesley Snipes' Blade. You also had some really compelling characters. I mean, just the side characters in this I liked. Ambush Wright as Karen Jensen, this cool doctor who's also a hematologist. You had Deacon Frost, Stephen Dorff. I mean, he wasn't the most physically powerful, but he used technology to read ancient scrolls. He was just smart, and he wasn't complacent. And even Mercury, like, her look is super memorable. Sanaa Lathan is in this movie. Udo Kier, he's just always in vampire films. Donald Logue as Quinn, like, just that idiot who always get his butt. But I just feel like
at the same time, you need a Quinn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he was just, there's humor in this, but then there's torture, there's blood, there's death, there's matching henchmen. I don't know why they match, but there are matching henchmen who have beanies and leather jackets that were bought by one company. Do they line up and get this stuff sent to them? Do they dry clean? It's just
right. Is there a vampire dry cleaning? Yes or no?
Yeah, we need this is the facts. This is what. Yeah, I'm just so excited to talk about this movie, man. I'm glad you joined me, because I think one thing about you is I was into X-Men in the 90s. I would buy like Turok. I would buy Star Wars comics if I liked the cover. I probably wouldn't even read them. But the only thing I was really invested in was the X-Men. I don't know too much about other comic book characters. I know where this came from. I know what Merv Wolfman created him in 1973, Tomb of Dracula, episode 10. Yep. The penciler was Gene Colan. So, like, what did you know about Blade going into this, and what do you know since? Like, how has this character evolved since Blade came out?
So, since Blade came out, obviously that put that character on the map. Now, originally is Eric Brooks. Before he becomes Blade, he gets that moniker of Blade, and he was originally designed to look like Jim Brown, the running back from the NFL. Mm-hmm. He was meant to look like this big, bustly guy and always be really, really cool, not what you see on the screen. So Wesley and his take on the character have transformed it so much since then. And then, due to the movie's success, I remember playing a video game called Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and all of a sudden you can do all this stuff to unlock Blade. And it's like, oh, okay, so now they're starting to really push this character. And since then, I mean, he's been through comics and he's adapted more and more and become a little bit more, I don't want to say more powerful, but he's been more prominent in certain stories, and he's obviously got his own run. But right now, I'm reading Venom, the current Venom, and there is a global event happening right now, and Venom gets pulled in with the Avengers, and Blade is an Avenger.
Wow.
And that just tells you the tier from him living in the streets of London, chasing after vampires and dealing with Dracula and being kind of the underbelly, to being somebody who's standing shoulder to shoulder with Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, and actually being a decision maker is a big deal. So Blade's come a long way, and a lot of that I think is due to Wesley Snipes.
Now, I want to ask you another quick question. So I'm going to read you some films, and we're going to kind of talk about whether they affected people's perception of Blade. So in 1994, Fantastic Four. 1995, Judge Dredd. 1995, Tank Girl. 1995, Batman Forever. 1996, Barbed Wire. 1996, Black Mask. 1996, The Phantom. 1997, Batman and Robin. 1997, Men in Black. 1997, Spawn. 1997, Steel. 1998, Blade. Do you think, I mean, aside from Men in Black, since then, Tank Girl's become a cult classic.
Yeah.
Black Mask was good. I mean, you got Jet Li. Spawn's become a cult classic. I mean, you just got Michael Jai White and John Leguizamo. It's amazing.
I love that movie. Yeah. As a matter of fact, with John Leguizamo playing the Violator in Spawn, that's a good movie. I enjoyed that one as a kid.